You know, a lot of people confuse being available with being valuable. They think just because they show up, just because they're present, just because they're in the room or answering the phone, that somehow they're contributing. But let me tell you something. Availability by itself is not enough. You can be available and still invisible. You can be available and still unappreciated. You can be available and still be forgotten the moment you leave. That's because availability doesn't equal impact. It doesn't automatically create respect. It doesn't automatically create influence. And if you're not careful, you can spend your entire life being everywhere for everybody, and yet have nothing to show for it. People will remember the value you bring, not the hours you clock. Think about it like this. If you walk into a restaurant, the chairs are available. The tables are available. The napkins are available. They're always there. But you don't go home talking about the chair or the napkin, do you? You talk about the meal. You talk about the flavor. You talk about the experience. Because that's what had value. That's what left a mark. Availability is common. Value is rare. So many of us fall in the trap of mistaking presence for contribution. We say, I was there. I showed up. I made myself available. But showing up is the entry ticket. What you do once you're there, that's what determines whether people remember you or not. Now, here's the psychological part of it. Human beings are wired to notice difference, not sameness. The mind is drawn to what stands out, not to what simply exists. If you blend into the background, you may as well not be there. And that's what happens when you focus only on being available. You become background noise. People don't ignore you out of malice. They just don't see you because you gave them nothing to notice. Let's make it practical. At your job, you might be the person who always says yes. You're in every meeting. You're answering every email. You're on every call. But if you're not bringing solutions, creativity, or leadership, you'll be remembered as the person who was always around, not the person who made things better. The truth is, companies don't promote availability. They promote value. Same thing in relationships. You can be physically available to your partner, your friends, your family. You can sit in the same room for hours, but if you're not bringing empathy, understanding, encouragement, what's the difference? They'll remember how you made them feel, not how long you sat there. And in life as a whole, You can be available to everyone, scrolling through messages, running errands, saying yes to factory. But at the end of the day, what did you actually contribute? What lasting effect did you create? If your availability is not backed by value, you will exhaust yourself and still feel empty. Now, let me go a little deeper philosophically. Time is the one resource we can never get back. Every hour you spend, you're spending your life. If you waste your time just being available, just being accessible, without adding value, then you've spent a piece of your life without creating any return. But when you invest your time in a way that creates value, whether through service, excellence, or impact, you're not just spending time, you're multiplying it, because the effect of your value lives on after the moment has passed. Availability is reactive. It's waiting for someone to need you, waiting for someone to call on you. Value is proactive. Value doesn't wait. It shows up with purpose. It asks, what can I contribute? How can I make this situation better? That's the difference between living passively and living intentionally. And here's the truth. People will always gravitate toward value. They may appreciate your availability for a while, but they'll seek out your value for a lifetime. The people who rise in any field, the people who earn trust and respect, are not the ones who were just always there. They are the ones who, when they showed up, made something happen. So ask yourself, when people experience me, what do they walk away with? Do they walk away with clarity, with encouragement, with solutions, with wisdom? Or do they just walk away saying, yeah, he was there, she was there? Because if that's all they say, you've been available, but not valuable. The challenge is to stop measuring your worth by how much access people have to you and start measuring it by the difference you create when they do. Stop equating business with impact. Stop thinking that attendance is achievement. It's not how many times you showed up. It's how much you changed the game when you did. That's what you want to aim for. Don't be the chair, the restaurant. Be the meal they can't stop talking about. Don't be the background noise. Be the note that cuts through the silence. Because at the end of the day, people will forget that you were available. But they will never forget that you were valuable. Now, once you understand that availability doesn't equal impact, the next natural question becomes, so how do I create value? The answer is simple, but it's not easy. You build it. You develop it. You cultivate it. Value comes from growth, from mastery, from becoming the kind of person whose presence changes the room. And that only happens when you decide to build skills that make you irreplaceable. Let me tell you something about life. The world does not reward effort. It rewards results. Effort is noble, but results are undeniable. And the only way you consistently produce results that stand out is by sharpening your skills. Some people cannot overlook what you bring to the table. You see, skills are the currency of value. Every skill you master adds to your worth. Every time you learn, refine, and elevate your craft, you're increasing your stock. And I don't care if we're talking about business, relationships, ministry, sports, or art. The principle is the same. If you're easy to replace, your value stays low. If you develop yourself to a point where replacing you would feel like a loss, your value rises. Think about the people we admire the most. The innovators, the leaders, the athletes, the artists. They didn't stop at being present. They became valuable by being exceptional. Michael Jordan wasn't just available to play basketball. He made himself valuable by being the best on the court. Steve Jobs wasn't just available in meetings. He made himself valuable by designing products that changed the way the world communicates. Oprah wasn't just available to talk. She made herself valuable by connecting with people on a level that felt personal to millions. That's what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. The ordinary person is available. The extraordinary person is valuable because they've worked to master their lane. And here's the psychological layer to this. We live in a marketplace of attention. Every single day, people are bombarded with options, choices of who to listen to, who to trust, who to follow, who to pay. And in that kind of environment, you don't stand out by being accessible. You stand out by being excellent. Excellence is the magnet that draws people to you. Excellence is what makes people say, "No, I don't want just anyone. I want you." That's what skill does. It creates pull. It builds demand. And once there's demand for you, you don't have to beg for opportunities. They come to you. But let's be clear, skill doesn't fall from the sky. It doesn't appear overnight. It takes commitment, discipline, and sometimes a whole lot of quiet seasons where nobody's clapping for you yet. This is where most people quit because they mistake the silence of preparation for the absence of progress. They don't see that the grind of building skill is what sets them up for value later. Philosophically, this is one of the greatest truths about life. You cannot become valuable without first being hidden. Every diamond starts underground. Every masterpiece starts in obscurity. Weakest, the greatest version of you will not appear while you're chasing the recognition. It will appear while you're chasing refinement. And when that version finally emerges, the world won't be able to ignore it. So here's the challenge: stop competing on time. Stop competing on who's the most available, who's the most reachable, who can say yes the fastest. Compete on impact. Compete on excellence. Compete on mastery. Because at the end of the day, people don't pay for presence. They pay for performance. They don't invest in availability. They invest in value. Now let me tie this to something deeper: your identity. When you decide to build skills, you're not just adding tools to your toolbox. You're shaping who you are. You're telling the world, I am not common. I am not replaceable. I have invested in myself so deeply that when you encounter me, you encounter something rare. That's a mindset shift, because the world is full of people who are content with being common. And common is crowded. But uncommon is valuable. Uncommon is irreplaceable. So, if you're serious about becoming valuable, start asking yourself, what do I need to master? What do I need to learn? Where do I need to grow? Stop looking for shortcuts. Stop looking for applause before you've earned it. Get obsessed with your craft, your growth, your excellence. Because the day you do, you move from being optional to being essential. And let me tell you something powerful. When you reach that place, when you've built your skills so strong that people can't imagine moving forward without you, that's when doors open. That's when opportunities chase you instead of you chasing them. That's when respect becomes automatic, because respect always follows value. So don't just aim to be around. Aim to be remembered. Don't just aim to be present. Aim to be essential, because the truth is, the world doesn't need more people who are simply available. The world needs people who are undeniably valuable. Once you start to understand that availability is not enough, and once you've committed yourself to building skills that make you valuable, the next step is to shift your mindset entirely. Because the goal is not to live your life just being needed. The real goal is to become sought after. Now let me break that down. Being needed means people come to you out of convenience. I know if they reach out because you're close, because you're easy, because you're available. It's like it's reaching for the glass of water that's nearest to you on the table. It's not that it's special. It's just there. That's being needed. It's transactional. It's about what you can do in the moment, not about who you truly are, but being sought after. That's a whole different level. When you're sought after, people don't come to you because you're close. They come to you because you're the one. They bypass other options. They wait for your time. They make room for you because your value speaks louder than your availability. That's the shift. That's the position you want to be in. And let me tell you, this is not about ego. This is not about thinking you're better than anyone else. This is about recognizing that true influence comes when people don't just need you, they want you. They want your insight. They want your presence. They want your contribution. Because they know when you show up, something changes. Look at the psychology of it. Human beings always assign higher worth to what is scarce, to what is selective, to what cannot be easily replaced. Diamonds are sought after because they're rare. Masterpieces are sought after because they're unique. And when you cultivate yourself into someone who brings something rare, whether that's wisdom, creativity, leadership, or compassion, you place yourself in that same category. You move out of the space of convenience and into the space of intentional choice. Now, here's where many people miss it. They spend so much of their lives trying to be needed. They say yes to everything. They stretch themselves thin. They make themselves available around the clock, all in the hope that people will value them. But what actually happens, they get used up, they get taken for granted, they get treated like a tool instead of a treasure. Because being needed is not the same as being respected. When you're sought after, you don't have to chase. You don't have to beg for attention or opportunity. Your value has created its own demand. And demand is a powerful thing. Demand will put your name in rooms you've never walked into. Demand make people schedule their lives around your presence. Demand will open doors that availability never could. Think about it in your own life. You don't fly across the country to eat at a fast food chain. You can get that anywhere. But you'll travel, you'll wait in line, you'll pay extra just to experience something unique, something excellent, something rare. That's the difference between being needed and being sought after. Needed is replaceable. Sought after is irreplaceable. And here's the deeper philosophical layer. Being sought after is not about proving yourself to others. It's about fulfilling the highest version of yourself. It's about refusing to live at the level of survival and convenience, and instead living at the level of impact and legacy. Because let's be real, when you're only needed, you're if when the task ends. But when you're sought after, hasten the weakest, your influence stretches beyond the moment. People carry your impact with them long after the encounter. This is where wisdom comes in. You have to learn the difference between pleasing people and serving people. Pleasing people makes you needed. They call you because you'll always say yes. Serving people makes you sought after. They call you because they know you'll give them something of depth, something meaningful, something that lasts. One drains you, the other elevates you. So the challenge is this: don't just make yourself available, make yourself essential. Don't just settle for being the quick fix. Become the one who shifts the entire direction of the conversation. Stop trying to be everywhere, and instead be so valuable in your lane that people come looking for you specifically. Because when you make that shift, everything changes. Opportunities start coming to you instead of you chasing them. Respect becomes the default response to your name. And you no longer live at the mercy of who needs you. You live empowered by who seeks you. So let me leave you with this thought. Weakest. Don't spend your life trying to be the glass of water that's always within reach. Spend your life becoming the rare wine that people travel miles to taste, because the world doesn't remember what was convenient. It remembers what was worth seeking.